What is... Okay. It's not working. It's odd. We will be starting, there we go. Now the microphone is working. So it's 4 o'clock on the head. Welcome to this, your Easy as Pie stream. And let's see how we're going. Let's see how we're going along. Okay, I've got some excellent connection here. Just checking the stream health. Stream is in a healthy condition. I'm just going to say something here. Hello, everyone. And let's see what happens there. Hello, everyone. Okay, so you can put your answers in the chat, or you can put your questions in the chat. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. Today is going to be a little bit of a revision, given that some of you are on vacation. And this is just to make sure that you do not get rusty. I hope you are practicing during the time. And yeah, I hope so. So here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to do this as this was an exam type question. This is an entire question one. I have taken it from the folding paper, the Feb-March of 2018. And we're going to use the next 35 minutes to go through this. But let's just look at question one, right? They're saying solve for x. That's the instruction. And let's look at the first one, x squared minus 6x minus 16. 3 marks. Now, in this case, hopefully we know that this is a quadratic equation. And that is going to be my clue to you in this case. And of course, what we're going to do is this is going to be a practice session for you. So I'm putting a timer in, right? And I'm going to give you roughly about 2 minutes to work through this. And remember, what we're doing is we're streaming some beats for you to help you relax and work through this in a relaxed way.
Hello, everyone.
And here we go, 2 minutes, and we will discuss in 2 minutes time. Right, so let's just go through this, all right? So let's just refresh your memory here, and let's just put the stream beats off while I take you through this. So remember that we know that this quadratic is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. That is the general form of a quadratic equation. And if you ever got stuck, you could have used the quadratic equation to solve this, right? The roots equation to solve this. Of course, you don't have to use the roots equation because there's another way, and I like to use something known as the cross method. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the cross method, right? So we've got x squared minus 6x minus 16 is equal to 0. And here's how you would do the cross method. So your first step is you're going to draw a cross, step 1. Okay. Step 2, okay, have a look at the coefficient of x squared, and so we know in this case it's 1, so ask yourself what times what will give me 1, okay, and we know in this case, or what times what will give me x squared, so I know x, if I multiply it by x, gives me x squared, okay, and then I've got to look at the constant. And then I need to ask myself what combinations of numbers will give me negative 16. And I'm going to give you one example. So let's say I took, the easiest example I could do is I could start with 1 and negative 16. Okay. Now once I have that, what I'm going to do is I am going to cross multiply what I have here. So this gives me 1 times x, which gives me 1x. And negative 16 times x, which gives me negative 16x, and if I add this, I then get negative 15x. Now, what am I looking in the middle? I'm looking for negative 6x, okay? So what does this tell me? Well, this tells me that this combination of 1 and negative 16 does not work. Okay, so I'm gonna remove it. Okay, and of course, remember, you might not have to go through trial and error so many times. But what if I chose, just using that same logic, what if I chose negative 8 and positive 2? Because I know negative 8 times positive 2 gives me negative 16. Let's do the cross multiplication in this case, and I know negative 8 times x gives me negative 8x, and 2 times x gives me 2x, and of course if I add these two, I then get negative 6x. So this gives me, or these combinations are correct, or this combination. So the combination I have is 8 minus x, and then I have x plus 2. Sorry, x minus 8. And of course, what I can do is I can then say x minus 8 multiplied by x plus 2 is equal to 0. And of course, from here, what I say, remember, it's either this is equal to 0, so x minus 8 is equal to 0, so I can then say x is equal to 8, or x can be equal to negative 2, using the same logic here, because x plus 2 can be equal to 0. Because remember, when I multiply anything by 0, I get 0. So either this can be 0 or that can be 0. And these are my final answers in this case, right? X minus 2, x plus 8. You can see how they've done it. All right, now, sometimes the cross method doesn't always work. And the clue, usually, to use the quadratic equation is to solve correct to 2 decimal places, right? So that's what we're going to look at next. All right, so we have this, that is done. And without further ado, what we can do is we can erase this. And we are going to go for the next one, right? But I want to give you some help. So let's say you had the data sheet in front of you, and some of you might already have the data sheet. What I'm going to do is, let's give you the quadratic equation. So we need to find it. It's not that one. It's not that one. It is this one. Okay, it's this one. All right, so now for 4 marks, solve 2x squared plus 7x minus 1 is equal to 0. In this case, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and then we can discuss. Okay, ready and go. And let's put the live stream back on, or the music back on. All right, so let's put that off and let's go through what we have here. Okay, so in this case, we need the values of a, b, and c, right? So what I'm going to do is, just for the sake of completeness, right, this is 1.1, 0.2. Let's list the values of a, b, and c, and I'm going to do it in green because this would not be part of your solution, most probably. So we know that a is equal to 2. The coefficient of b is 7. And the coefficient of c, and it's important to get the sign right, is -1. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to plug that into this equation. So we're going to say x is equal to -b, so in this case it just becomes -7 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 49, and this is where I would probably use brackets, minus 4. Let's put the a term in brackets, so 2, and then -1, which is the c term. And this is all under the square root sign. And then I say 2, and I would put this in brackets, a, which is 2. And of course from here it then becomes arithmetic, so I can say this is the same as saying -7 plus or minus, right? So the square root of, so that's going to be 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, and this becomes minus times a minus, so plus. So 49 plus 16 is going to give me 55 if I'm not, sorry, 65 if I'm not mistaken. 65. That's going to be all over 4. Okay. Now, let's just look at the model solution here. Sorry, my maths is a bit off. My apologies. 49. Let's just have a look and see what went on here. Just give me a second here. That's 49. I see where I made. That's 8. Sorry. So I've made a slight mistake here. And let's just remove that. That's not 65. That's 57, because that's 49 plus 8. All right, 49 plus 8 is 57. All right, and from here, I need to ask myself is, can I simplify this third? Okay, can I simplify root of 57? And the example I might give you in this case, right, with the simplification of a third, let's say I had the root of 8. Remember that this can be written as the root of 2 times 4, which can be written as the root of 2 times the root of 4. And of course the root of 4 is 2, so this can be written as 2 times the root of 2, right? So can we do the same with 57? Well, no, we can't. Okay, we can't do that. But what we can do to get the 4th mark is you're going to need to use your calculator and plug this in, and you get 0.14 and minus 3,64. Okay, and that is your answer in that case. And that's part 2. All right, done and dusted. Okay, that's your answer, and let's remove it. All right, so now let's look at the next question. They say, I'm going to highlight this in blue. List all of the integers. So we're looking at integer values that are solutions to x squared minus 25 is less than 0. All right. So they're testing inequalities here, and they're testing your understanding of the number system. This is a 4-mark question, so let's give you 2 marks, 2 minutes, and we'll discuss. Right, so time is up. You'll notice that the reason that I give you less time is to help you to learn how to do or how to work under exam type conditions. And I'm just making sure that my mic is not on mute. That can be a problem. Let's see. So we can remove this now. We don't need it anymore. Now, let's have a look at 1.2. It's an inequality. Now, how would I solve it? Well, the first thing I might look at doing is factorize, right? I might say, this is the difference of squares because x squared is a perfect square and 25 is a perfect square. So I can say this factorizes to x minus 5 into x plus 5. And that is less than 0. Okay? Now remember, once I get this, right? And that is a 5, just in case you're wondering. I'm just going to remove it there. That is a 5. And so from here, what I do is I get my critical values, right? So almost like treating this less than as an equal to. So I get my critical values, and I know my critical values are minus 5, right? Because that becomes x is equal to minus 5 or plus 5. All right. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is the easier way, or the ones that most people understand, right? I'm going to put the critical values on a number line, like so. Okay, and I know a number line always goes to negative infinity and plus infinity. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose values between negative infinity and minus 5 at first. So let's choose the easiest value, right? Let's choose minus 6. So if I say minus 6 minus 5, that's minus 11, which is a negative. And then I'm multiplying by minus 6 plus 5, which is a negative. And the negative times a negative gives me a positive. Okay? Let's take any number between minus 5 and plus 5. And for me, the easiest number is 0. So 0 minus 5 is going to be minus 5, so that's going to be a negative. And 0 plus 5 is plus 5. It's going to be a positive. And a positive times a negative gives me a negative. Okay? And then lastly, let's take any number greater than 5, and let's take 6. So 6 minus 5, in this case, is a positive. That's 1. 6 plus 5 is 11. And a positive times a positive gives me a positive. Now we need to ask ourselves, if this is less than 0, where does it happen? Well, it happens here, in between here, okay? It happens in between here. But remember, they said list all of the integers where this is less than 0. Now remember, if it's just less than, I will exclude negative 5, and I will exclude positive 5, because at that point, this is equal to 0. Or at these points, this is equal to 0. So remember, in this case, what you would say is, your answer would then be, okay, x is an element, and you would then say, and there's multiple ways to do it, right? I'm just going to show you, but you'd open your squiggly brackets, and then remember, we're excluding, so we'd say minus 4, minus 3, right? And you'll notice that you've got to write out all of the discrete values. Why? Because integers are discrete values. So you'd say minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where you would close it off. Okay? This is going to be your answer. Now, what I would like you to do, remember, you can do this and you'll always get the right answer. Another way to think about this, and I like to think about it in pictures because people think about it in pictures, is if I took x squared minus 25 and I said, okay, what type of parabola is this? Well, I know, or I should know, that in this case, this is going to be a happy face parabola, because remember, the coefficient of a, in this case, is 1 and 1 is positive. So I know it's going to be a happy face parabola. I know it's going to look like that. And what are these values here? Well, those are actually the roots. Okay, those are the roots or the x-intercepts. So if I had to draw this on a graph or a curve, this parabola would look like this. Okay, that's what this parabola would look like. This is the parabola x squared minus 25. Okay, now in that case, all I need to do is I need to say, okay, where is this negative? Well, it's negative all the way here, which would then give me the same answer. All right, so you can look at it in two ways, whichever you feel is more intuitive. All right, and that's my answer for this question 1.2. We're done here. All right, in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this because we don't need it anymore. Remember that this is all going to be stored for you on a Google Drive and the Google Classroom. Now let's go to the next one, right? They now say solve for x and y. What does that tell me? It tells me I'm going to be using simultaneous equations. And remember, with simultaneous equations, I need to take or identify the easiest or the most simplified equation and work with that equation. And then substitute values into the more complicated equation and solve. This is a 6-mark question. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, let's give you 4 minutes, okay? I think that should be more than adequate to figure this out. And let's put on some music for you and let's get you going. All right, what's going on here? Right, so let's have a look at this one. And so let's just start. So of course, the first thing we need to do is we need to identify which is the easier equation. I would have said, well, I would have called this equation 1, which is usually the easier equation, and I would have called this equation 2. Now, how do I know that this is the easier equation? Well, you can see that the highest power in this equation 2 is squared, and the highest power in equation 1 is 1. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate one of the variables. The variables are x and y. Which is the easier variable to isolate? Well, for me, it's going to be x, because I then do not have to work with fractions. So what I would then say is, if I make x the subject of the formula, and that means if I isolate x, x is equal to, right, that's going to be minus 1. And if I take that minus 2y across, it then becomes plus 2y. Now here's the key that I'm going to encourage you to, in your exam, put a bracket around this. Okay? And let's call this equation 3 if you want. Okay? And then what am I going to do? I'm now going to sub x. So where I see x in equation 2, I'm going to sub this. So I'm going to substitute 3 into 2. Alright, so let's do that. I then have x squared, right? So in that case, I then get minus 1 plus 2y squared minus 7 minus y squared is equal to y. Well, sorry, negative y. And so one of the key things is just to make sure you capture everything properly. Now you can see I've only got one variable here, which is y, or y and y squared. And of course, how am I going to expand this thing? Well, you can use FOIL, or you can use something known as SMS, which for me is the simpler one, or the quicker one, right? SMS means I square the first term, so minus 1 squared becomes plus 1. I square the last term, so 2y squared, or 2y all squared becomes plus 4y squared. And then I take the first term times the last term, so minus 1 times 2y is minus 2y, and then I multiply by 2. So minus 2y times 2 becomes minus 4y. Okay? Then I say minus 7 minus y squared. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that minus y across, and I'm going to say that becomes plus y, and I'm going to equate it to 0. Now, why am I doing this? Because of my practice, I've noticed that I'm potentially setting up a quadratic equation here. Okay, so let's see what I have. I then have 4y squared minus y squared, which then becomes 3y squared. And then I have 4y, or minus 4y plus y, which then becomes negative 3y. And then 1 minus 7, which becomes minus 6, is equal to 0. Now, what you'll notice is I've got a common factor, or a highest common factor of 3, which is what I'm going to pull out next. That becomes y squared, right? Minus y minus 2 is equal to 0. Now, of course, I can get rid of this 3 by dividing both sides by 3, right? Because 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 0 divided by 3 is just 0. I then, of course, get a y squared minus y minus 2 is equal to 0. And of course, from here, I can factorize this, because this becomes y minus 2 into y plus 1. Now, how did I know that? Well, I used the cross method in my head. Okay, and of course, in this case, I then get y is equal to 2, right? Now, when y is equal to 2, let's plug it in here. When y is equal to 2, I then get minus 1 plus 4. So therefore, at this point, that becomes 3, right? That's the point. So your point is x is 3, y is 2. And when y, in this case, y, and I'm going to say or, y is equal to neg 1, right? And when that's neg 1, that becomes minus 1 minus 2, which then is x is minus 3. And of course, those are my answers. Okay, let's just have a look. So you can see I've got x is equal to 3 or minus 3, and y is equal to 2 or minus 1, which is exactly what I got here. And you could have made y the subject of the formula, but then you're working with a fraction, which makes it harder. I remind you in the exam to keep things simple, or keep them as simple as possible. And this is my answer in this case for this. And I'm going to erase this in this case. And here's what we're going to do. I think we can sort of round it off or wrap it off, right, with one last question. Now, in this case, actually maybe two questions, but they say evaluate 3 to the power 2018 plus 3 to the power 2016 all over 3 to the power 2017. That's for only 2 marks, right? You're going to have to use your exponential laws here. So in this case, let's give you them. Here's your exponents. Here's your exponential laws. And I'm going to give you a minute, literally a minute, to have a go at this. And let's get the music back on and go. All right, that's time up. So negative, or we're going to look at the exponents. Now recall, if I, let's just write this out, 1.4. In this form, I can't use exponents, right? Because I've got a plus at the top, and all of my exponent laws are related to multiplication, division, and exponentiation. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to look for a highest common factor here, right? To somehow cancel the thing at the bottom. Now let's say I pulled out, and so the easiest thing to cancel 3 to the power 2017 is going to say, let me pull out 3 to the power 2017 in the numerator. What would be left would be, well, 3 to the power 1, right? Because 3 to the power 1 times 3 to the power 2017 will give me 3 to the power 2018. And then 3 to the power 2016, in this case, would be 3 to the power minus 1. Right, because minus 1 plus 2017 will give me 2016. That's all over 3 to the power 2017, right? Now I can do cancellation, right? Because I've got a multiplication. And of course this cancels. Okay. Now what am I left with? I'm then left with 3 plus 1 over 3. Okay, which is of course 3 and 1/3. Okay, or if you wanted to put it in your improper fractional form, you could have done that. Okay, 3 and 1/3 or 10 over 3. Not particularly difficult in this case, but there you go. All right, so that is that. Not a difficult one at all. And let's move on. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so let's finish this off. Right, so you're given some sort of, well, you're given t of x is root 3x minus 5 all over x minus 3. For what values of x will this be real? Now, remember, real numbers, you can't have a negative number under a square root. You can't do division by 0. That is my clue to you for 1.5.1. Okay, I'll give you a minute and 30 seconds to work that out. And let us go for it. All right, so let's just start to finish this off, right? So the first thing is, we can't have a negative number under a square root, okay? Because remember, if I say the square root of -2 is an example that has no real solution, right? And they want to know what are the real solutions here. So what I can do is I can start by saying, well, I know that 3x minus 5 must be greater than 0, okay? And it can be 0 as well, right? Because 0 is a real number and I can have 0 in the numerator. And of course from here I just solve and I can say, okay, in that case 3x must be greater than 5 and x must be greater than 5 over 3, right? But also, another thing is, I know that x minus 3 cannot equal to 0, right? Because I can't divide by 0. And so in this case I would then say x cannot equal to plus 3. Right, because if I have plus 3 here, that becomes 3 minus 3, which is division by 0. That is your answer for the first question. And then they say, okay, solve for x if t of x is equal to 1. Okay, 4 marks. Let's have a go. I'll give you 2 minutes. Make sure you don't make a mistake. The easy mistake to make, but let's go.
Download your favorite podcasts and listen uninterrupted. Try YouTube Premium on us.
Right, okay, last question for the day, everyone. All right, so let's just remove this. Don't need it anymore. All right, 1.5.2. So in this case, they're saying t of x is equal to 1, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to equate it to 1. So what I'm going to say is a root 3x minus 5 all over x minus 3 is equal to 1, right? Now, one of the mistakes might be you substitute x is equal to 1 now, and you might do that if you are under pressure in the exam. Right, but let's solve this. So let me take this x minus 3 across, and what I do is I then get 3x or root 3x minus 5 is 1 times x minus 3, which is of course just x minus 3. I'm going to keep the bracket because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to square both sides. Okay, this square root and square cancels, so I then get 3x minus 5. And I use SMS here, so this gives me x squared minus 6x plus 9. I can then take this 3x minus 5 across, so I'll get 0 is equal to x squared minus 6x minus 3x gives me minus 9x. And then 9 plus 5 gives me 14. Right, I've got a quadratic, so in this case, what do? I factorize. And in this case, I could say x minus 2 into x minus 7 is equal to 0, and in this case I get x is equal to 2, or x is equal to 7. Now, this is not the end of it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug these x's in to see if this makes sense, if it gives me a positive answer. So in this case, 3 times 2 is 6, 6 minus 5, that's a positive. Okay, so that's fine. I don't have any division by 0. The same with 7. So these are my answers. And you can see that's how we're doing this in this case. That's the answer, but they say x is not equal to 2. I just need to figure out why. 3 times 2 is 6, 6 minus 5. Ah, yes, okay. So the reason why they say x is not equal to 2, right? Because what I would have is I would then have 2 minus 3, which is minus 5. 2 minus 3, which is minus 1. And this would then be root of 1, which is, but it could be plus 1 or minus 1. So in this case, even if you didn't put the equal to it, would still be correct. But this is what I'm going to leave you with, and I hope this has been a beneficial session. But this is where I'm going to stop it. But thanks very much. Please remember, we do this every week. Really love to help you get a great mark in maths, and I'll be doing this continuously. So I hope you'll join me. Thank you, and bye.